Hey everyone, welcome to another top 10 list. This week's top 10 list is my 2024 review. These are the top 10 notes I purchased in 2024. Now, I purchased quite a few notes. I purchased some biggies, some small ones. Um, you're going to see a mix of all the different ones in here. I did manage to narrow it down to 10 and an honorable mention, so I'm proud of that. But yeah, I think I cover all kinds of different things. For those of you wondering what I personally collect, you see it all the time. I don't target any one thing, I collect a little bit of everything. So you never know what's going to turn up each week. Some people focus on specific things. They only collect small hits, they only collect silver certificates, whatever. I collect it all. And I don't necessarily have a checklist as far as what I want to go after next. I am open to all kinds of different things. Anything I can find for a good price. That's how it makes it into my collection. All right, so let's get on with it. My honorable mention for this week. The honorable mention, this is a $5 note. It's an obsolete currency from the Bank of Singapore, Michigan. And you can see State of Michigan, Singapore, $5. You can see it's signed, hand numbered. That's the way obsolete banknotes were. This particular one from the Singapore Bank, it says the Bank of Singapore. What makes this so cool, take a peek at the back here. It does have some writing on it, March 1st. What makes this so cool is this is from a town that no longer exists. It was a lumber town, and they had a lumber mill right along Lake Michigan. And I guess the story goes that they took down all the trees in the area, and the beach kind of took over, and the whole town was eventually just absorbed by the sands that were blowing from the beach, from the sand dunes. So yeah, Singapore no longer exists. Not the Bank of Singapore, the city of Singapore, Michigan no longer exists. So to have a banknote from a town that doesn't exist, that's pretty cool. So yeah, that's my honorable mention. $5 note from the Bank of Singapore. All right, number 10. This was a neat pickup. I've had a couple specimens like this. This is a $10 specimen note. The American Banknote Company, they call it a test note, and they say 10 units. It is not $10 because nowhere on here does it say dollars, but it was the American Banknote Company showing what they could do with different printing styles. Basically, this was the intaglio printing method, showing how they could make the raised edges, showing how dark they can make stuff, how light they can make stuff, how with just one color green you could get all these different shades based on the different lines. They did the same thing with black here. You can see it says series of 1929. This was not from 1929, even though that's what it says everywhere. This was done sometime in the 70s. But the reason why this note is cool is, first and foremost, it's graded 65 EPQ. Always nice to have a graded note. That way there's no debate on the condition. But secondly, most of these test notes are green on this side and black on this side. The reasoning for that is, on our notes, the front of our notes is done with all black ink, with the exception of the serial numbers and the seal, and the back of our current notes is done with green ink. So when they did the vast majority of their specimens, they did it the opposite way so as to not confuse the specimen notes with actual currency. So the face would be green, the back would be black, which would be the opposite of what you'd be used to seeing. This was the only one that I've ever seen that had been done with black on front. So I don't know if this was an early or a late print, but I know it is a rare print. So the fact that I spotted this and was able to pick it up before anybody realized what it was, yeah, this was a good auction find for me. That's number 10. Number 9, I have this one from, you can see, 1954. This is a $100 Bank of Canada note. The 1954 series for Canada was the first series to feature Queen Elizabeth on it. And this is the $100 note. And the reason I picked up this $100 note is because a lot of you guys know about the devil's face appearing in the hair. And this one, you can see, clearly does not have the devil's face. But this one does. I managed to get a pair of Canadian 100s, and here you can see the devil's face. Let me grab my pen and I'll point it out to you for those of you who don't know. If you look right here, that's the nose, the mouth, one eye, another eye, and you can even see horns here. So that is the devil's face in Queen Elizabeth's hair. Now, this is how this was taken directly from a portrait. The engraver just took a colored portrait and engraved what he figured would be black and white to make this. Didn't even notice that. It was put out into circulation, and that's when people started talking about it. So then they modified the hair to fix that. So you have the devil's head version and the modified version. They made this in the 1, the 2, the 5, the 10, the 20, the 50, the 100. I think they even did the 500 and the 1,000. The 500 and the 1,000 are well out of my price range, but by virtue of the fact that I was able to score a $100 devil's head at a decent price, I certainly wanted to pick that up as well as the regular for the comparison. So that is number 9. Number 8. This is the T31. It is the 1861 $5 Confederate States of America note, and I had purchased a couple counterfeit notes, one of them being this counterfeit note, and whenever I have counterfeit notes, I always think it's neat to have the original as well. But if I remember right, the price on this was just ridiculous. I mean, I want to say that even in a grade 12, this was somewhere between $500 and $900 or something just crazy. And there was no way I was going to spend that much money on this particular note. Here's the back of that note. The fact that it's graded, of course, makes it much easier to determine the price because there's the grade. And I want to say that I picked this up for like $100. So, I mean, this was a note that I never thought I would own because I just frankly wasn't going to spend 4 digits on a Confederate note. But because I was able to find it at such a cheap price, I don't know if the person just didn't know or they figured it to be the wrong note. I don't know what their reasoning was for it, but I got it for roughly $100. So yeah, this clearly is going to make my top 10 for the year. This one is number 8. Number 7. I got me an ace. Now, this is not in the greatest of shape. I understand that. Even in a grade 8, these can run $1,000 real easy. I think I paid like $400 for this. So yeah, it's in rough shape, but this is the original $1 notes. Now, I say that, and it's technically not. This is the series of 1875. But when I say original, I mean it is from the first charter period of national banknotes. So this is the series of 1875. That's what it says right here. And because it's got the charter number, you know it's not the original series, but it's from the Columbian National Bank of Boston, Massachusetts. These, like I said, rough shape on this one. That's the landing of the Pilgrims on the back. On the back, you'd always have the eagle on this side representing the U.S. And then on this side, you'd have a vignette representing the state or the territory that this bank was in. You can see here, Massachusetts, because this was from Boston. This is actually one of the top 100 notes of all time. Let me just see if I can reach this. Yep, here we go. Here's my cheat sheet. The $1 ace is number 45 on the list of notes in the top 100. So yeah, I wanted to make sure I picked up one of these. Eventually, I'm sure I'll upgrade it, but right now, I'm happy just to have this example. So that one is number 7. Number 6. This was a cool pickup for me. It's a $1 silver certificate. It's actually emergency currency. This particular one is from Hawaii. You can see the Hawaii overprints here and here. And of course, it's got Hawaii stamped on the back. Emergency currency was printed for Hawaii because they thought by doing this, it would dissuade Japan from invading Hawaii and trying to steal all the money. Because all of the money would be with this brown seal and the Hawaii overprint. All Congress had to do was pass a law, and all of this would be null and void, so it would be useless. So it helped prevent a full-blown invasion of Hawaii. But what makes this so cool, yes, it's a silver certificate, is it's a star. So as often as you see Hawaii notes up for sale, how often do you find the stars? Not very. So to be able to get a star note, I don't care that it wasn't even in the greatest of condition. I have one, and that's the important thing with collecting notes. You want to have an example, even if it's a bad example. You have one. You can always upgrade it, but have one. That's the thing, and that's why I got this particular one. That's number 6. Number 5, along the same lines, here's the North Africa emergency currency, also in about as equal shape. And that's another thing. Because both of these notes here are from the emergency series, one being Hawaii, one being North Africa, they are in similar condition. So when you see them together, they fit. If one of these was choice uncirculated and the other one was a rag like these are, well, then it would look awkward. But because both of them are in roughly the same condition, they do fit together and they make a nice little pairing. The North Africa series, this of course was used on the European front, and this one also happens to be a star note. So I managed to knock off the stars for both the Hawaii and the North Africa series. The North Africa series, you can see on the back, does not have In God We Trust. It also has no other overprints other than the gold seal over here. Technically, this is the yellow seal. It is a different color than the seal that they used on the small size gold certificates. So it is its own color. But yeah, a star note for the North Africa series. That's a cool catch. That's number 5. Number 4. I checked and rechecked just to make sure that this was not part of the top 100. It is not. I was surprised. I thought it would be. This is a $50 1914 Federal Reserve note. This one happens to be from Philadelphia. And you can see right there, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's the C portion. That's why the serial number starts with a C. If you find a $1 bill that's got a C right here, that would be from the Philadelphia Reserve. This particular note, of course, features Ulysses S. Grant, graded choice fine 15. It's always neat to find the large size, I say larger denominations, only because a 50 is the second largest denomination we currently use. Normally, when you talk about bigger denominations, you're talking about 500 or 1,000. But yeah, 50 is a large denomination for the things that we have today. Looking at the back of this note, I mean, yes, it was graded minor edge damage. You can see across the top, it's kind of raw. But what's cool about this is this represents the Panama Canal being finished. So you've got the Atlantic on one side, the Pacific on the other. And if you look, those are palm trees celebrating the completion of the Panama Canal. It even says Panama right there on the bottom. So a really cool note to add to the collection. How many Federal Reserve notes have palm trees? Pretty sure this is it. So yeah, large size $50 note. The $50 note, once again, when it comes to collecting, if you're going to restrict your collection, you probably want to pick up notes that are not as widely printed. And the 50 most certainly qualifies. How often do you hold a $50 bill yourself? I mean, everybody has hundreds, but when they break 100, they break it for 20s, not 50s. So the 50 is short printed. Well, not officially short printed, but it's shorter printed. So yeah, there's going to be less of them around. Always a good way to get it. That's number 4. Number 3. When Dan came to town, me and Dan went to the show down in Schaumburg, and I picked up a $5 Brownback. Brownback was from the second charter period of national banknotes. You can see this is the National Bank of New York City. There's the charter number right there, and that's President Garfield on there. Yes, it does have some creases in it. I don't care. I wanted to get one. It's graded 10, and I was able to check it off the list. The Brownback, what number? This is part of the top 100. A Brownback is number 33. A $5 Brownback, I should say, is number 33 on the top 100. That's why I wanted to get one, get it checked off the list. Now I don't have to worry about it. If I find one at a better price later on or in better condition, great, but I don't have to hunt for one because I've already got it checked off the list. That was the importance to me. That one is number 3. Number 2. Big surprise. Wasn't even on my radar. I happened to see this 1928 $50 note. 1928 was the first year for small size notes. So, once again, as I was saying before about 50s are relatively short printed. So I thought to myself, yeah, I'm definitely going to try to pick up this $50 note from 1928. But then I noticed it's a star. Not only is it a star, it starts off with 4 zeros. Not that that's a fancy serial number, but it's on the lower range of numbers. So, I found that interesting. I don't think that adds to the value at all. But nonetheless, it's a $50 star note from 1928. These were so short printed that this particular note in a grade 20 books out somewhere over $1,000, or like, was it $1,200 or something like that? It was a ridiculous price on this, and I may have gotten this for $200 or so. I know I got it dirt cheap compared to what the actual price was. Maybe it was $400, but the book is 4 digits, and I was stunned about that. So for me to snag this note at such a cheap price, yeah, that was a huge win. Go out and try to find a $50 star note from 1928. It's going to cost you quite a bit. So yeah, huge steal for me on this one, and a really cool addition to the collection. That's number 2. And finally, number 1, I did it. I was finally able to do it. Back in January, I had a trip to Vegas, and I did quite well. And when I came back, I wanted to make sure I had something to remember that trip by. So I took some of my winnings from that trip, and I purchased my dream note. I got me a 1905 $20 gold certificate. I got the Technicolor Note. Technicolor Note, this background is actually yellowish. You can see the color of the paper right here. I know it's not in the greatest of shape, but only about 500 of these still exist. So to get one of those 500, to me, that was important. You can see the date up on, or the deposit in the treasury, or what we got here. Here's Act of 1882, series of 1905. The thing that makes the Technicolor, like I said, is the yellow background here, the bright orange seal, and it is kind of an orangish red. In gold coin is also in yellow, as well as the 20. When you compare it to the 1922 version, all of this is a white background. So that's how it got the nickname the Technicolor. The downside is the back of my note isn't that true goldfish color, goldfish orange. It does have some of the deteriorating marks on the back there, a little bit of a staining here. I don't care. I know what this is, and I was able to check it off the list. That was my number 1 pickup for 2024. All right, guys, if you learned anything new this week, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading all your comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.